Redditors who grew up filthy rich, what did you think was normal till you learned otherwise? I would say rich in the area, by comparison. I think the moment it really sunk in was during 5th-6th grade, around middle school. I felt like I was getting too cool for little kid parties, so I decided I wanted to go somewhere and do something fun. My parents were super excited about this since it meant I was taking one stupid middle schooler with us on a mini trip instead of having 15 stupid middle schoolers in the house. I decided on a trip to some festival, which meant a ferry ride and then drive to a Canadian city and have a big fancy meal. The girl I picked had been my friend for years. I had no idea her life was so different. She lost her mind on the ferry. It was so fun. She had never seen Canada before, so we stopped and took her picture. My parents, realizing immediately that it was a huge deal for this girl, bought her and I souvenirs, which she later gave to her mom since her mom has never left the area. My mom would not let her order the cheapest thing on the menu, which I never realized is something poor children are trained to do. I thought you could just pick whatever you wanted to eat. She was the first person in her family to travel more than 30 miles from her house. This was pre-9/11, when a family could just take a random child with no ID and a permission slip from their parent into another country. We are both adults now, and occasionally run into each other. She is married with 4 children and still talks about the time we rode a ferry and went to Canada. Had she not brought it up, I probably would have forgotten. What's that one story you've always wanted to tell on r/AskReddit, but no one has ever asked the right question? I was once robbed at gunpoint in a public bus. Dude was talking to me like he was my friend while pointing the gun at me. He only asked me for the cash I had in my wallet, and after I gave it to him he kept talking to me like we were random commuters having a conversation. Dude got more confident and asked for my phone. I said no, not the phone, man, I need it, and he was like fine, it's okay, don't worry, we chill. 10 out of 10 would be assaulted by him again. A few weeks ago I was visiting Los Angeles. I'm from Spain, but I'm fluent in English. I needed help finding directions to a certain address. I'm in downtown at this point, on foot. I ask a guy in the street if he knows where the address is. He responds with, "No hablo inglés," which is I don't speak English in Spanish. Being from Spain, I understood him, and asked him again in Spanish. Then he says, in crystal clear English, "Dude, I just don't want to talk to anyone. Leave me alone." What is the most disturbing fact you know of? 30% of people reported missing, and found dead, were killed by the person reporting them missing. Half of the homeless people in America were in the foster care system at some point in their lives. Only 20% of the males born in the Soviet Union in 1923 survived World War II. When you're burning to death, your eyes melt out of your head before you die, so you're still alive while your eyes are melting. During the Antarctic exploration, one of the researchers complained about his shoes being soaking wet. When he took them off, he found out the liquid in his shoes was his decaying feet that liquidized and made a forbidden Slurpee out of his feet and blood. Mummies weren't that rare until the Victorian British ate so many of them. Read a story in an old newspaper once, about this girl, 12, who was asking for money to do a surgery. She was the only survivor of a shipwreck and lost a good chunk of her leg in it. That is why she needed the surgery, to be able to keep her leg from being amputated. The crazy thing is the motive for her leg to be amputated. During the rescue, she shouted for the rescuers to be careful pulling her up from the water because a fish had bitten her on the leg. It wasn't a fish, it was another little girl, 6 years old, dead, still attached to her leg by the nails. The way we experience life is not linear, but logarithmic. We've all noticed that a year keeps feeling shorter, but it's because there's a mathematical formula for it. It's called Weber's law. Life is truly too short. Before we ever notice, it's over. For my fellow habitual neck crackers, studies show there is a 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 250,000 chance that popping your neck can cause a small tear in the inner lining of an artery, which can lead to blood clots forming that can create a blockage in an artery downstream, causing an ischemic stroke, a condition where the blood supply to part of the brain is cut off. My funniest racism experience in China. So I'm a black guy who lived in China for a year. Racism is quite different in China, and to be honest, it literally is in your face and it could even get life-threatening at times. I've had a lot of bad experiences, but this one was one of the ones I actually liked and one I didn't mind. I was riding on the train in Beijing, minding my own business, and all of a sudden, someone shoves an earphone to my ears from behind, and I was surprised and pissed that this happened. And lots of rude people in China, so you're always on the edge. I turned around instantly and it's this teenage girl, and she was hyper and very happy to see me, it seemed. And then she says the most unexpected shit ever. She says, "I like rap music." Wow. I was so shocked but not angry. It was just too surprising and something I wasn't expecting after having earphones shoved on my ears. And I shit you not, the music was not even a black guy. It was fucking Eminem. The whole thing brought a smile to my face because I knew it was just ignorance and not arrogance, and you can't be mad at ignorance. She wanted to take selfies with me, selfie with a black guy. I allowed it. We took selfies and we parted ways. Last night, I heard a little boy beg his mom not to go into a liquor store. Reddit, what things have you overheard that have broken your heart? For my son's 9th birthday I took my son and a handful of friends to the movies, then to pizza, then they all slept over. On the way home from pizza the kids were commenting on great the night was, and were saying thank you. etc. I said in reply, we love having kids over. Out of the blue, one boy quietly whispered to me, my mom doesn't love me. Broke my heart into bits. I asked why he said that, and he said, she always left me. I would wake up and she would be gone. Come to find out, he had just been placed with his dad that he barely knew. The state had taken him away from his mom for neglect, leaving him every night alone to go to the bar. It had been going on for years and the neighbors would hear him crying alone and call the cops. She is a raging alcoholic and a drug addict. Still, his dad had only met him once before, and was currently living with a new girlfriend, and she didn't like kids. His son was now sleeping on the floor of the girlfriend's apartment as there was no room for him. It was fucking heartbreaking. To make matters worse, he sat alone every day after school on the steps of the library waiting for his dad, sometimes till past 7 p.m. When I found out, I had him over every single day, eating a snack, doing homework together with my son, eating dinner most nights. Less than a year later, his father asked if I could take him for a while. He had broken off with the girlfriend and had nowhere to go, and nowhere to bring his son. No problem. I'm a single mom of one son, but I always have room for anyone who needs to stay. His dad brought over all of his clothes in a garbage bag, everything he owns. He never officially was mine, but I became his adopted mom since that time, bringing him to the doctors, going to parent-teacher conferences, music concerts, etc. He is 19 now and doing fantastic. He made it through high school at an honors AP level, and then went to college on full scholarship. But better than that, he is an awesome person, funny, smart, kind, loving. I love my adopted son. What are some college life pro tips? Try to make friends with someone in each class. Classwork is a lot less stressful if you have people you can discuss things with, or get notes if you miss a day, or who can give you a heads up about changes in assignments, etc. Find a toilet nobody knows about on campus, one that's clean, or has 2-ply toilet paper. Find that magical toilet and tell nobody of its existence. If you skated through high school without really learning how to study, manage your time, or do any real work, and you think you can do the same thing in college, you're probably gonna be in for a very rude awakening. Don't buy your books at the bookstore. Always buy from Amazon, Chegg, or some other source. The bookstore is way overpriced, and never worth your time. When you meet your roommate for the first time, scream as loud as you can and kick them in the chest, asserting your dominance for the remainder of the semester. Be on guard for similar displays for your roommate, as the dominant status will be used later to select mates. What is one rule that was implemented at your school or work that backfired horribly? My high school was trying to prevent a senior prank since the class before us had got a little out of hand. They basically told us not to have one, that they would get anyone who did anything in a lot of trouble, yada yada. So somebody has an idea. What if we do an anti-prank? The idea had floated around the halls and everyone knew what we were going to do. For an entire week, every senior was going to bring a potentially threatening item for a senior prank, and do nothing with it. The week starts and that Monday, nearly the entire senior class carries a banana with them to every class. This is a school of 2,600 student, 650 graduating class. So there are hundreds of bananas being carried through the halls, teachers and assistant principals freaking out. By noon, an announcement was made that all bananas needed to be eaten or thrown away or they would be confiscated. So by that afternoon, every banana was taken away from the student. The next day got even better. Somebody has the idea that we should all bring a gallon jug of water with us to class. And to no one's surprise, again there is an announcement that they are going to start taking up the water jugs for fear of what we are going to do with them. But this time, the students got creative. People are resentful now and not wanting to give up their precious water. Students are getting creative, hiding them in backpacks, avoiding teachers in the hallways, whatever it took to keep their water jugs. But alas, most of the jugs had been confiscated. So the students start taking to social media. Tons of tweets and mentions are going out to local news stations, DMZ, Oprah, Ellen, you name it, they got mentioned. All of these messages are going out along the lines of school is confiscating all water, not allowing students to drink water, #HighSchoolDrought2KXX, #wording, #send help. You get the picture. Before the end of the day, 2 different news reporters were at our school. Guess we had the last laugh after all.